Hey, what's going on, everyone on YouTube? Brad with Brad's Backyard Bees. Today, I'm in my nuke yard here and probably going to be going into another yard, but it'll be a subject for another video. We're here about the 1st of August here in south central Pennsylvania. We're sort of in a nectar dearth. We have had some rain here the last few evenings, which is going to be good, I think, for anything that could potentially bloom. The early goldenrod, helianthus, things like that. But again, we're in a nectar dearth, and without going on a real lengthy presentation, I guess, during a nectar dearth, the bees obviously don't have nectar to work. There's a pollen dearth. I'm starting to see a little yellow pollen coming in, so it means they're finding something now. But what happens this time of year, we start to switch gears a little bit as a beekeeper, at least I do. We're looking into, I want to get bees built up. I want to get a larger cluster about this time of year. I obviously want to be treating for mites, and this yard that we're going to be looking at today has been treated with, it's a nuke yard. It's been treated with 2 rounds of, actually 3 rounds of Apiguard. I did some testing afterwards. It looks like it was successful. Our mites are fairly low here. We're in good shape in that department. We'll give them another treatment going into really late fall. I'll probably put an Apiguard treatment on them. But after your, especially with Apiguard and a lot of your mite treatments, it really knocks the queen for a loop. It is hard on bees. That's why people shouldn't treat unless they really know they need to. It should never be a force of habit as I treat spring and fall. Well, you need to treat when your mite loads are high, which is obviously why we treated this yard. We was over the threshold on several hives. But the point I'm wanting to get at is when you treat a bee colony, the treatment is hard on the bees. The queen, especially with Apiguard, she'll shut down. You'll not see eggs. She'll just shut down temporarily, and that was the case with this yard. It's no different than any other time I've used it. But here a couple of weeks ago, it's been about, this is the second 1-gallon bucket that each one of these, other than the real small ones, got of real thin, probably thinner than 1-to-1 sugar syrup, and also a really small Ultra Bee protein patty. I want to get the queens kicked back into gear now and want to start raising. I want to start seeing a lot of brood. I want to see the brood nest get bigger. These are going to be the bees that's going to, if I have to feed or if there's enough of a nectar flow, these are the bees that's going to store the honey. I want these bees to be the ones that store that. I don't want my winter bees, once they start, of course that's going to be a while. I don't want the winter bees to be doing the work. I want the generation prior to that, so that the winter bees aren't worked to death by the time they're starting to go into winter. So what we're doing today, and I said all that to say this, what we're doing today is to see if this was actually successful. I want to start, they were really low in brood after the treatments, very little capped brood, very little young brood. So we should start seeing some capped brood here. That's going to be the goal as to what I want to see here today. So we're going to take a look in a couple of colonies. I'm not going to go and pull every frame. I want to see that there's a queen. I want to see that there's several frames of brood. I sort of remember what each had and to some degree. But I want to see that if this was successful, this real thin syrup and a pollen patty. Now I want to say this before we get into the hive. I don't think these substitutes are better than the real thing. Obviously a real nectar flow and a real pollen flow is much better for bees when they're rearing brood. In fact, if you are trying to feed when there is a good nectar flow in the spring, for example, or a pollen flow, they're probably not going to take this. They won't eat the pollen patty. They won't hardly touch the sugar syrup. So they know that what nature provides is better for them. But I'm also one of those people that I will absolutely feed. Some people, that's a touchy topic. They feel we shouldn't feed bees and that sugar syrup is detrimental to the bee health. I disagree in that. I'm not saying it's the real thing, but I find that I don't have any issues feeding sugar syrup. And then the nutritional value of the Ultra Bee, I think, is good for them also. I think it does help. So I want to say that right off the bat. I don't think this is better than the natural stuff, but when the natural stuff's not there, as most of y'all know, if bees have to have two things to raise brood, and if they don't have pollen, which is their protein, and if they don't have the carbs or the nectar or the sugar syrup, they're going to slow down. They know that they get into a survival mode, and I try to avoid that in my bee yards. So in any case, let me get set up here on a hive, and let's take a look inside and see what we got to work with. Okay, we're looking at a hive here. This was a hive that swarmed. They requeened, at least as far as I know. She came back and got mated, so there's you learn as I learn here on these videos for the most part. So we're going to be taking a look in here, see what it looks like. It was pretty low the last time that I was in. Now I prefer these style feeders. This is a 1 gallon bucket. Either this or an inside feeder on my double deep main hives. So we're going to take a look in here and see what we have. There's still some syrup left, so that's going to be a little bit of a surprise because the rest of them took most of their syrup down. So who knows, maybe she didn't come back from getting mated. We'll see. Like I said, we're going to learn on this and look in this together. Okay, so they took the patty, nothing at all left of the pollen patty. It was a small one. One thing I will say quickly on pollen patties, do not put something in that's going to take them a long time to eat. I'd rather see someone put small chunks in often versus a large one, for the simple reason of hive beetles. They will attract hive beetles. So I always use these rims. I want the bees to be able to police on each side of the patty so that they can police the hive beetle some. So we're here in the top box. This is a double deep 5 frame. We'll pull a frame here and see what we got. This might be all honey up here the way it's looking, so we might have to get down to the lower brood chamber. Pull this outside frame. They got these drawn out pretty fat. In fact, let's just go down to the bottom chamber and see what we have. You can sort of tell by the weight that's all mostly honey. There probably might be some brood in it. Okay. Not a large bee population. Again, I said this hive swarmed late. They have some catching up to do, so we'll take a look. Let's see, not a lot on that frame, just a outside frame, comb. There is a hive beetle. When these hives get a little weak, you will see hive beetles. So this was going to be a hive that needs a trap, it looks like. I've seen several hive beetles. I don't like seeing them. We'll put a beetle blaster trap in this. Well, maybe our queen did not come back. So far it's not looking too great. Seeing bees with yellow pollen on their legs. There's some hatching brood, but I can't remember. I think I put a frame of brood in this hive to help them out a little bit. but I am seeing eggs. So there is a queen in here. Again, they really got far behind when they swarmed. It was a late swarm. Not a whole lot of brood activity. There is some pollen that they're bringing in, as you can probably maybe see in the lens there. Only seen a few eggs though. We may have to take a look into the top box. Now if I would run across another hive that has a lot of hatching brood, I'd probably put it into this. Because like I said, it's looking pretty weak. It actually may need a queen. We got a lot of food, that's good. Got to frame a really wonky comb, that's not good. Yeah, judging by the way they're looking, no, maybe there is some brood here. They say they might be queenless, but maybe not here. Let's see what this frame looks like. Okay, and we've got capped brood and we have eggs here. Oh yeah, she's working on it. As you can see, we got a pretty good brood pattern. A lot of larvae, a lot of capped brood. There's eggs on the other side, so the feeding's been successful. It's allowing them to rear the brood they need. If there wasn't the feed for them to bring, since there's nothing for them really to bring in right now, they may not have that ability to raise that brood that they're wanting to. So we're going to go ahead and put this back together. I've seen basically what I need to see. We're going to give them another patty. I'm going to give them a hive beetle trap because they're a little weak. Hive beetles are very much take the opportunity of a weak hive, and we'll make sure they stay fed. I think they'll be ready for winter. We're going to move on here to another hive. So if you'll just hold on just a second while I move this. So here we're in another hive. Their sugar syrup's empty. These guys had a little issue requeening. I think they had swarmed too, and took them a little while to get straightened out with their queen. In fact, I think if I remember right, this was a hive. We had a queen come back from getting mated. She ended up being a drone layer. She was laying nothing but drones. So I pinched her and put another queen in. So one of our queens, and we'll see what they're doing here. Alright, they've eaten their little patty, so it's going to lead me to believe they're rearing brood. As you can see, nothing left. So that's good to see. Of course, we want to be checking for hive beetles. That is a concern. If you have a weak colony, if it's a strong colony, generally you're not going to have a whole lot of issue with hive beetles. But when they're weak, then they can't defend themselves. We'll take a look here and see what we have. Alright. They're building some foundation here. See a couple of random eggs up here. That's interesting. They are storing their sugar syrup away. Take a look a little deeper here. Again, this had a lot of drone brood in it whenever I had to requeen it. She was there. She just wasn't, she was a drone layer. Okay, I'm seeing larvae. I'm seeing lots of eggs. I'm seeing a nice brood pattern on this side. So she is doing her job. Take one more frame out and take a look, and then we'll just call it quits. This time of year, I don't think we need to dig quite as deep. We don't need to be checking for swarm cells, although they can swarm. Yeah, she's doing a really good job. A lot of young larvae. A lot of capped brood. Yep, she's taking care of the situation, so we're good. They'll build up as long as they have the resources available to them to do it. Which means that they'll get another small piece of pollen patty here later on today. Okay, well, I think what we're doing is doing right for them. So we're not going to spend all day taking a look in, because I got another colony I got to really check into. And another yard. So we'll make sure that we mix up some more feed later and they get some feed. So I'm going to let you go at this. So this time of year, not a bad idea to put some feed out.